Hello, everyone. It's the second week of the semester, and I hope you are all warmed up and ready to begin this semester. I know, wala na tayong excuse that we are still hangover from the long vacation. So right now, let's talk about the first chapter of our syllabus, and we're going to talk about the introduction or the introductory lecture for our subject capital market. Okay, so let me just read to you the outline of today's lecture or presentation. So first is we're going to define uh, capital markets. We are going to somehow see the ano ba tawag dito? Parang shortcut. I think it's just a brief structure of the capital market. But I'm going to give you an additional lecture when it comes to the detailed structure and functions of financial markets. So it's going to be a separate video that you will be watching. Because for this presentation, it's just a brief structure of the capital market. So, ibig sabihin, centered siya sa capital market. Unlike when we say the financial markets, it's a composition of all the financial markets that are existing, not only in the Philippines, but in a global scale. Okay, so it's a different discussion. And then the next would be the overview of the capital market in the Philippines. And then we're going to talk about the regulators and the regulations of the capital market in the Philippines. And lastly, sorry, we are going to discuss the role of capital markets in the economy. So, yan ang magiging flow ng ating discussion for this particular lecture. So, let's begin. So, as you can see, you are looking at different flags. I don't know how many can you enumerate, but let me start with the US flag, okay? The United States of America. This is the Japanese flag. This is the Saudi Arabia flag. This is the um, Republic of China flag. And then we have the Canadian flag, UK. This is Hong Kong, and this is not uh, a usual flag, ano? Hindi siya like bansa, hindi siya bansang sinasagisag, but it's a group of countries. So we call that the European Union. So this is called the European Union flag. Okay? So the reason why I am showing you this is because this particular countries and group of countries has something to do with what we're going to discuss in this lecture. So as we can see, these are all very much progressive countries in terms of technology, in terms of probably military investment, in terms of what else? In terms of innovation, yeah, in terms of setting trends in a global scale, they are very much well known. Okay? So, the reason why I'm showing you this is because I would want to uh, show this illustration to you guys that these countries right here, they are one of the most or yeah, they are considered as the largest stock markets in the entire world. Okay, so what does that mean? It simply means they are really market movers. In short, once their stock markets move, the entire global economy moves. Okay, in fact, no, NYSE, this is the largest stock exchange in the world, which is located in the US. It is valued at $28.19 trillion. So we're actually looking at the amount of money that these markets move freely in the world. Okay, so this is just one stock exchange which holds this much amount of money which circulates in the entire world. So this is just one single stock exchange. And then we have Nasdaq. Nasdaq is also an American stock exchange, which is valued at 12.98 trillion. And then followed by Japan, and then Shanghai, Hong Kong, Euronext, Shenzhen. So as you can see, we have two Chinese stock exchanges, which is Shanghai and Shenzhen. We have the London Stock Exchange, and then the Saudi Stock Exchange, and the TMX, or this one is the biggest stock market in Canada. Okay, so this is as of April 2020. So why am I showing these illustrations to you guys? Because when we say capital market, it really caters kumbaga, pag pumasok na sa isip mo yung salitang capital market, right? Papasok na dyan yung sinasabi nating stock market. Anyway, mamaya pa natin i-define, but let me just make it clear with you guys that when you say capital market, we are also similarly referring to the stock market. Okay? But that doesn't necessarily mean the stock market lang ang included sa capital market. It's the most popular market that is included in the capital market. Okay? Or we call it the the equities market. Okay? And when we say this markets, sa totoo lang, pag sinabi mo kasing stock market, it's just simply palengke. Palengke ng mga stocks, palengke ng mga securities. And so, we have valuable companies or valuable firms which kumbaga, they make the most value in that particular stock market. So for example, Amazon, right? This is a tech company which is located in the US, and we all know that for the longest time, Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon, has been considered as the world's #1 billionaire. Pero in 2020, no, na-overtake siya ni Elon Musk, yung owner ng Tesla. But as you can see, one firm is already valued at 220.8 billion. So that's just one single company. Kaya kita niya, laki ng bilog niya, right? Kasi Amazon talaga yung naging trendsetter when it comes to yung tinatawag nating electronic or virtual shopping experience. Siya talagang nag-level up ng experience, at siya ang patuloy na nagiging trendsetter when it comes to operations in terms of logistics. Okay, we also have IBM, which is also in the US, and then we have Shell, then we also have Mercedes-Benz in Europe. Okay, this one is in the Middle East. Etisalat. Okay. And then we have, this one is a Chinese firm. Okay. Ano to? State Grid Corporation of China. You know, socialism kasi ang pinaka main economic, ano ba tawag dito? In terms of status, hindi siya democratic, hindi rin siya how do you call this? Wala siyang prime minister, no? Hindi siya parliamentary. We know that in China, gobyerno ang nagpapatakbo sa mga businesses. That's why, as you can see here, State Grid Corporation of China, right? And then in South Korea, we have Samsung. Yes, K-pop pa more, no? And then we also have two in Australia. So these are considered the most valuable brands per region in 2020. And if you would want to look at the top 10 Nasdaq stocks, no, what separates Nasdaq and NYSE is that Nasdaq caters more of tech companies. Kaya kung isa-search nyo tong mga top 10 na to, these are all tech companies. Nikola is a car manufacturing firm. It's a automobile firm, pero halos lahat ng mga linya ng produkto niya ay solar-powered or battery-powered na mga sasakyan. Zoom, as we all know, during the pandemic, nag-soar ng napakalaki. Actually, nakasulat dito is 272.6% yung kanyang in-increase when the pandemic happened because most of the people are working from home at gumagamit ng Zoom. That's why the value of the firm really rose 272%. Okay? And then we have Moderna. I think by now, you now know what Moderna is. Kasi ako before, hindi ko rin siya alam. We all know it's a pharmaceutical company. DraftKings is an online video game platform. Tesla, as I have mentioned kanina, owned by Elon Musk. Siya ang nagpasikat ng commercial space flights. At siya rin ang nagpasikat ng mga electronic-powered sports car. And then we have Bilibili. This is a Chinese online video platform. Etsy is like Lazada, no? Shopping application. So anyway, hindi ko na isa-isahin, but what we're trying to look here is we're talking of this amount right here, no? Based on companies with a market capitalization of at least $10 billion. Okay? And these are increase in terms of, hindi ito yung presyo niya, but this was the increase in terms of value in the first half of 2020 pa lang. Okay, I'm just letting you see this picture. Mamaya ko na-explain bakit ko siya pinapakita. And speaking of tech companies, later pa pala yun. Okay, and I would want to show you this winners of 2020 and losers of 2020 because this is how the pandemic changed the equity market. Okay? So, as you can see, these are percent increase. Kapag kasi sa stock market ay green, alam mo na it's a gain. Okay? So, ang pinaka nag-increase talaga is the Novavax. This is a pharmaceutical firm. Okay? Because of, they have to develop the COVID vaccine and now they have to supply these vaccines to the entire world. So, kita nyo naman yung demand for vaccines right now. And then we have Tesla, Moderna, Zoom, and of course, the very controversial Bitcoin and other IPOs. Okay? So, just imagine this trend that is happening since 2020. No, maraming investors ang nag-shift from the traditional stocks to what we call, these are pharmaceutical stocks, no, to the tech stocks. And then look at these losers of 2020. We have theme parks, energy stocks because wala nang work from home tayo, nag-halt yung mga na-put into halt yung operations ng napakaraming companies. They have to shut down their facilities because the government cannot really gamble on the safety of its people. Parang with what happened to the Philippines, we had a 2-month lockdown. So just imagine that. And the fact that most people or the government na lang, they're pushing for cleaner energy. So yung traditional energy would be really compromised. So usaping politics na yan. Then we have Air Canada. So this is just an example of many, many other airline companies, no? Napakaraming mga naluging airline companies, hindi lang nalugi kundi nagsara. Even with oil, no? Now, these are unprecedented losses that happened in 2020. And these are the new players that showed not only resiliency, but they were the ones who were first to, kumbaga, they've seen it fast forward, this is where we're going to in the next coming years. Even before the pandemic happened, Tesla was there, Zoom was there, Bitcoin was there. With the rise of virtual money, with the rise of virtual banking, no, hindi na surprise that for some, Bitcoin really was a huge gain during the pandemic. Okay? So again, speaking of tech companies, as you can see, the rise of tech companies in terms of front office, middle office, back office, talagang nagsisisulputan na because of the work from home scheme that we have experienced during the pandemic. So if you are a company who was able to prepare for this disruption, so when we say disruptions, it's changes in the market, you're actually kumbaga safe. Ano? Ibig sabihin, nakapag-prepare ka in advance of the pandemic, you see this coming, nag-invest na yung company mo with, we call it blockchains, no? If you have already invested with, kumbaga, work from home schemes, like for example, in TSU, the administration was one of the few na nauna dito sa Region 3 when it comes to investing in online platform like the Microsoft Teams. So, napakaswerte natin sa TSU. Though, we really purchased this software, millions of pesos po ang value na pinag-uusapan natin. But we were one of the early SUCs in Region 3 na nakapag-invest sa Microsoft Teams. That's why, no, napakayabang natin na tayo yung isa sa mga nauna talaga. So anyway, napakaraming nagsusulputang mga firms ngayon na kung saan these are all part of the Nasdaq community na kung saan if you would want to invest with this tech firms, you are open to do so. Okay? So, ang sinasabi ko lang at pinapakita ko lang is napakarami. There are a lot at marami pang magsusulputan pa in the next coming years because we are going to be highly dependent on these softwares. And whether we like it or not, no, what we call the IoT or the Internet of Things has been really observed in the year 2020, and I think doon na talaga tayo papunta. Okay? It's what we call the Industrial Revolution 4.0, and we are here living in that era. Okay? And speaking of our equity market or our stocks market, this is actually, ito na yung latest na nakita ko. I haven't seen the 2019 statistics. Anyway, so in 2018, our PSE, nag-iisang stock exchange natin sa Pilipinas is valued at $290.4 billion. We're not even in the $1 trillion mark yet in the ASEAN group. So, hindi pa tayo ganun ka competitive, I can say, no? Hindi pa ganun ka at par yung performance ng ating stock market. We will discuss that later on. How does that mean or anong ibig sabihin nun at significance nun sa ating capital market economy dito sa Pilipinas. But kung titingnan natin, napakalayo natin sa Singapore, napakalayo natin sa Thailand and Indonesia. So, we have still a lot of work to do. That's very obvious, ano? Lalo na ngayon na nag-pandemic, we know that there are a lot of uncertainties that happened during the pandemic at isa ang Pilipinas sa pinakatinamaan talaga in terms of our equity markets. No, kung titignan nyo, since kapag ka high risk ang isang market, very vulnerable talaga siya sa changes ng global movements ng stock market. At mamaya makikita nyo yun, no? But anyway, sige, let's define what capital market is. So definitely, from the word self, capital, okay? Ibig sabihin, this is a place where you get funding, okay? So in your course, which is financial management, when you say finance, it means funding, it means gearing, it means a steroid of funding. It's like a lubricant of fundings. And so it's a market where you get capital. It's a market where you get funding. And so when you say capital market, it is a market for long-term investments. You don't say short-term kasi when you say short-term, the counterpart for that is the money market. But if you're looking for long-term investments, you simply say, that's the market for equities, because equities and debt securities are known as long-term investments. Okay, kaya ko naging example magmula kanina yung ating stock markets. It's a global stock market to the ASEAN market, and then later on we're going to talk about the Philippine stock market. Okay, so again, the capital market is a market for long-term investments with explicit claims to capital. Okay? Kasi when you say you are engaged in the capital market, you know that you are expecting something in return. So once you invest in a particular company, you automatically become a shareholder, and as a shareholder, you are entitled to receive benefits, profits as an investor. Okay? At ang tawag doon ay dividends. Or in return, your stocks would have capital gains. Okay. So long-term funds, like I said kanina, it's a capital for it's a market for funding. Long-term funding. That's why sabi dito, long-term funds are combined and made available to individuals, businesses, and the government. Yes, you've heard that right. So even the government is participating in the capital market because we have securities that are government issued. So examples of those are the treasury bonds. Yeah, it's one way of the government to raise funding from the public. It's through issuing treasury bonds. Okay? So, hindi lang individuals at businesses, even the government can participate in the capital market. And lastly, a market where equity and debt instruments are bought and sold. Okay? So, ang pinaka-major markets or instruments that are being issued in the capital market are equity or stocks, also known as stocks, and debt instruments are also called as bonds. Okay, so sabi nila, the capital market is a measure of inherent strength of the economy. In fact, it's called as a barometer. When you say barometer, it is a measuring instrument. So you know when the capital market is sick or when the stock market is sick, you know that the economy is sick. So again, like I said kanina, funding, it is one of the best source of finance for the companies and offers a spectrum of investment avenues to the investors. Okay? Which in turn encourages capital creation in the economy. So, kung titignan natin itong definition na to, the capital market, number 1, is a barometer of strength. Number 2, source of finance. And it is an avenue, it's a place, it's a market. Which, in return, this is the ultimate goal of the capital market. It is to encourage capital creation in the economy. Okay, so when we say capital creation, there is a multiplier effect. Okay? Kasi pag sinabi mong it encourages saving, you only mean nagtatabi. But when you say multiplier effect, 1 times 2, 1 times 3. So kung dati piso, ngayon 5 piso. And that's what we want. I think by nature, human beings are so greedy that we don't like the word konti lang. Ang gusto natin, mas marami, mas masaya. The more the merrier. And that's what the capital market would want to achieve, more capital creation in the economy, which is mamaya, I will be posting a question for you guys to answer regarding this capital creation in the economy. Okay, I have a picture here. I know. Speaking of funding, speaking of finance, there are two pictures right here. This is what we popularly know in the Philippines as the sari-sari store. And here's Pure Gold. Pure Gold is a publicly listed company in the Philippines. And so when we say publicly listed company in the Philippines, you can buy Pure Gold stocks in the stock market. Okay? So, what is the difference? I think it's the same concept na this one is a grocery store, this one is a sari-sari store. Kumbaga ito ay mas malapit sa mga bahay-bahay ng mga tao. At ito naman, malapit pa rin naman, but it's a bigger sari-sari store. Okay? So, I always say this example to my students. So, when you were in elementary, nung bata ka, yung sari-sari store, na, na, na palagi mong nakikita nung bata ka, hanggang ngayon college ka na, ganun pa rin ang itsura. But ang Pure Gold, it has been expanding its operations halos per town. Dito sa Tarlac ay meron ng Pure Gold. Right? I think that's the goal of the Pure Gold company, no? To expand its operations until each town or each barangay would have their own Pure Gold or Pure Gold Junior. So the difference between these two is that this is a smaller business model and this is a bigger business model. In the sari-sari store, you only have one owner. But in the Pure Gold company, there are a lot of shareholders. The company of this this company has several owners, while this sari-sari store has one owner. So, saan sila nagkakaiba? Okay, it's in terms of the funding. Kaya pag nawala na yung original na may-ari ng sari-sari store, no, pwede niyang ipasa sa anak niya, but the commitment kung kanino niya ipapasa yung business is not the same anymore as the original owner. But here, in Pure Gold, regardless kung may umalis na isang shareholder, the company can still go on, move on, and progress to its agenda. Okay? So in short, what am I trying to say is that the capital market allows more development. The capital market allows more profit. The capital market has more employment properties. It can give more taxes to the government. What else? It provides more opportunities, and what else? I think it's more on options for the consumers. Options, mas lumiliit yung costs of doing business. So in short, again, ang dami kong sinabing in short, mas maraming benefits kapag ka ang business model mo is mas maraming involved. Okay? So, it's a corporate setting as compared to the single proprietorship. So, bottom line, the capital market can provide more opportunities in an economy. Okay. So, what are the functions of the capital market? Probably at this point, I would want to show a quick video so that instead of reading this long functions, mas ma-visualize ninyo ano ba ang importance at functions ng capital market.
Capital markets channel savings and investments between suppliers of capital, such as retail investors and institutional investors, to users of capital like businesses, governments, and individuals. They do this by selling financial products like equity and debt securities. Equity securities, also called stocks, are ownership shares in an organization. Debt securities, such as bonds, are interest-bearing IOUs. Capital markets include primary markets and secondary markets. In primary markets, new stock and bond issues are directly allocated to institutions, businesses, or individual investors. In secondary markets, existing securities are traded in organized and often regulated markets like the NYSE or Nasdaq. Capital markets are concentrated in financial centers such as New York, London, Singapore, and Hong Kong. Because capital markets move money from people who have it to organizations that need it for productive uses, they are critical to the effective functioning of a modern economy. TV Tech is a startup company that is looking for investors to fund their new product, a combination TV and watch device. Alice, a venture capitalist, believes this new company will be a great success and decides to buy 20% of the startup directly from the founders. This transaction, because it lacks a regulated market, would take place in the primary market. If TV Tech then goes public and is listed in an exchange like the NYSE or the Nasdaq, then buying and selling shares of TV Tech from its original investors would take place in the secondary market.
All right, so there you go. It's a very short but very precise illustration of how the capital market works. So, siguro ang pinaka matatandaan nyo dun sa video would be, it's a channel. Okay, it's an avenue where the surplus of savings. Okay, pag sinabi kasi nating savings, sa money market yun eh. But when we say the capital market, it's a channel for those people who have savings and channeling or transporting it to the avenues or the people or institutions who need it most. Okay, so in the example is there is an interested party which would want to invest in a tech or startup company. So if you have watched the K-drama Startup, probably you'd understand better what we're talking about, ano? So kung meron kang extra or surplus na savings, you would want that money to be productive. So what you're going to do is you're going to place that in a company which you believe would have value in the future. So nag-invest ka dun sa tinatawag nating primary market because you are investing as an individual to the issuer of that share, which is the company. And that in a few years, kung mag-IPO siya or magpa-list na siya finally sa stock exchange, that stocks will then be bought and sold in the secondary market. So it's a mobilization, okay? It's one way of speeding up the transactions kasi without the capital market, okay, we would be relying our funding through the banks. And you know that banks are not that capable of producing trillions of dollars or millions of pesos. Like for example, if I am SM company. So if I would be it would be an objective for me. It's gonna be a long-term goal for me to establish as many SM branches in the entire Philippines. That would require a lot of funding. And so you cannot do that with just kumbaga, you are just going to depend your funding through banks. So I guess yes, the banks can extend loans to you, but not as much as the capital market can. That's why most companies are turning into the capital market to have access to greater funding. Because kung long-term funding lang din, long-term investment, there is no other way, there is no other resort but the capital market. Okay? And then it facilitates trading of securities. Ito na yung importance ng secondary market. sa madaling salita, pag sinabi kasi nating secondary market, it's like the Tarlac bentahan online. Okay? It's the trade coming from the buyer to buyer or seller to seller. Although meron tayong mediator and we call that the brokers. Okay, and then we also have the exchanges. It's a facility which is in the Philippines, we call that the Philippine Stock Exchange. Okay, so that is the primary market. It keeps the companies liquid. It keeps the market liquid. So when we say liquid, it doesn't run out of value or funding. And then we have the capital market minimizes transaction and information costs. Okay, because as we all know right now, we have online brokers as well. Uh, all informations can be seen through the television, especially now that we have 24-hour cable news channels such as ANC, we have Bloomberg, we have Al Jazeera, which napakadali na lang mag-locate ng mga information without spending a peso. Okay, and then we also have social media platforms of news agencies also, no, yung mga business sections ng mga news. And so transaction costs are very minimal na lang at the moment, especially right now with the progress of investment banks. Napakarami na ring mga universal banks na nagki-cater ng stock trading. Okay? So, marami ng market participants, hindi na lang iisa, dumarami na sila because we need to really push people to start participating in the capital market. Okay? It encourages wide range of ownership of productive assets. Okay, when we say productive assets, we have utilities corporations, we have tech corporations, that are really converting the savings or the surplus money of people into productive assets. Yung masasabi mo, okay, pag nakikita mo yung building na to and you know that you are a shareholder of this company and you are proudly, you can proudly tell yourself that, you know what, I made this possible. I'm one of those people who made this possible. Now that, kunwari, ikaw ay shareholder ng San Miguel Corporation at makita mo nakatayo na yung Skyway Stage 3, you would say na, I made this possible, right? And next, quick valuation of financial instruments like shares and debentures. Okay, when we say quick valuation, because if your company is listed in the SEC, na pag-usapan natin later yung SEC, you are required to post your financial statements online. You are required to give copies of your financial or annual reports to your shareholders. So there is transparency in terms of the relationship of the shareholders and the top management of the firm. Okay, so you can do valuations also. O nga pala, no? We also have online websites, or we have websites where you can easily access the informations of this, or in terms of valuation of the financial securities that are being traded in our stock exchanges. Ano ba? Facilitate transaction settlements. Ito pag-uusapan natin to dun sa participants ng stock exchanges. When we say transaction settlement, it's not just the stock exchange that functions. We also have the depository institutions. We have the clearing houses. So, maraming key players that makes the capital market work. Okay? But the bottom line is, there is a surety. Merong tayong tinatawag na peace of mind when you transact in the capital market. The consumer or the investor rights are really protected thanks to this third party players, or they are considered as part of the huge web that makes the operations of the capital market efficient and effective. Okay. Next, offering insurance against market or price risk. So, again, the capital market as it has evolved over time, although nagkaroon ng mga ano ba, lapses before. It happened during the 2008 financial crisis. But these risks were minimized because of those experiences. And so right now, meron na tayong mga insurance companies that can insure even securities investments can now be insured because dati ang meron lang tayo health insurance, we have life insurance, but right now even your securities and your investments are covered by insurance. And what else? The last is effectiveness of capital allocation. Okay. I think with yung sabi ko nga kanina, the capital market is a channel. Okay? Yung tao or mga institutions na may surplus savings can easily channel this surplus into institutions that are in need of those limited resources, which is money. No? Sa economics, sinasabi natin ang pera is very limited lang yan. That's why when we say capital allocation, effective capital allocation, you would know that in the capital market, no peso is wasted. No? Unlike sa gobyerno kasi wala masyadong accountability. But in the private sector, there is so much accountability because the shareholders really make sure that there is proper expenditure, kumbaga spending of their investment. Okay? So, since maraming may-ari, marami ding nagsuscrutinize. That's what we would want to highlight on that. The capital market ensures that there is effective capital allocation. You put your money where it is needed most, or else it's a waste of money. Diba? That's why in financial management, the ultimate goal is to maximize the shareholders' wealth. You cannot waste each centavo that your shareholders entrusts in you. Okay? So that's the beauty of the capital market. Mas napapadali yung pag-transfer ng surplus funds into needed parties. Kumbaga, you know that there is a need for this funding to make it productive, to multiply the profit, to multiply economic gains. So at the end of the day, the capital markets aim is to really produce more economic profits. But then again, of course, there are downsides to the capital market, especially when it is being abused. Alam naman natin na hindi lang gobyerno ang naa-abuse, pwede ring ma-abuse ang capital market, but we're gonna talk about that later. Now, here is a simple structure of how the capital market works. So, as mentioned dun sa video, we have the primary market and then we have the secondary market. So, in the capital market, you can trade equity securities, you can issue, or sorry, you can also trade debt securities, and then there is also what we call the derivative securities. So, on the other video that I will be requiring you to watch, mas maiintindihan nyo anong ibig sabihin ng derivative securities. And like I said kanina, hindi lang individuals ang pwedeng mag-participate sa capital market, hindi lang businesses at hindi lang gobyerno. So there is what we call the wholesale segment and then we have the retail segment. Ibig sabihin individual and bulk. Okay? So wala siyang pinagkaiba sa usual na market that we know. Kung merong wholesale, merong retail. Of course, the wholesale are institutions who are buying bulk of securities and then they sell it. And then when they sell it, of course, they sell it at a higher price. And of course, pag wholesale, they get it at a discounted price. And then there are also like us, individuals who are willing to invest. And we usually buy these retail stocks to, like for example, investment banks, no? brokers, black brokers, mga ganyan. And so that's how the capital market works in a nutshell. Okay? But there is some more detailed discussion for this part. It's on the second video that I will be showing you. Okay, so this one is, I think this is a more detailed structure or a detailed mechanism kung paano nag-work ang capital markets, but I will be leaving this for your own reading. By the way, I will be giving you a copy of this PowerPoint presentation. Don't you worry. Okay? And here are the capital market participants. Okay, I have another capital market diagram in the Philippine setting. I will be showing that later, probably in your handout. But for now, this is a generic diagram of who the market participants are. So issuers, right here are the companies, okay, the listed companies. Where is my mouse? Yun. Okay, so the issuers are the company. And then we have the stock exchanges. We have the merchant bankers. So when we say merchant bankers, sila yung nagbebenta. Okay, the investment banks. Then we have the individual investors. We have the market regulators. Of course, hindi pwedeng walang magre-regulate. Kung hindi, gagawa na ng kababalaghan itong mga pwedeng mag-take advantage. All of these market participants can take advantage of the capital market. That's why it's important to have regulators, ensuring that everyone is following a law. Okay? Hindi pwedeng illegal. Kailangan lahat ay recognized by the government. So, market regulators are coming from the government. Okay, and then we have the depository participants. So, when we say depository, these are banks where you can settle your payments. Okay? Magkaiba yung merchant bankers dun sa depository participants. But they are all financial institutions. Okay? And then, so depositories are bank. Depository participants are like, in the Philippines, we have PDIC or the Philippine Depository Insurance Corporation. So that is a depository participant. Depositories are bank. And then we have the mediators, which are the stockbrokers. So generally, these are the capital market participants, or they make up the entire web of the capital market. So without one of these, the capital market cannot function. Okay? So here is another diagram which actually illustrates the definition of the capital market, whereas your savings is transported to investment. So hindi mo pwedeng masabing investment ang savings kung hindi siya dadaan sa capital market. What transforms savings into investment is the capital market. So without this, hindi tayo pwedeng magkaroon ng investments. Because investments such as stocks and bonds, okay, even real estate, is then transformed and given to lenders and investors. Okay, pag sinabi mo kasing lenders nagpapautang, investors, these are buying securities. Lenders are buying debts, utang. Sila ay bumibili ng utang. Investors nag-i-invest. So, therefore, nagiging debt, and then equity. And then this money is transported to projects and properties that are productive and can generate profits, and in return, kaya meron siyang arrow dito pabalik, okay, natatransport siya back into savings or capital gains. So that's how the capital market transform savings to investments and back to savings. Okay, and the cycle goes on. Okay, just to show you aside from the diagram that I showed you earlier, sa ASEAN, tayo ay malayo-layo pa ang tatahakin. Just to give you an idea of the development in our capital market. So we are right here. Okay? So gaano na daw kalalim yung development ng ating capital market dito sa Pilipinas. So, meron siyang legend dito. If it's on the green side, it means very deep. Okay? Deep, moderate, shallow, and very shallow. So, based on funding, nandito lang tayo sa moderate. Okay? Based on investment opportunities, moderate. And pricing efficiency, nako, shallow pa rin tayo. So, out of 5, we got a score of 2.25. Nako, hindi pa pasado. Probably para masabi mong pasado na yung ating capital market development is at least maka 3 tayo. But 2.25 is still very low score. Ibig sabihin, we have so much work to do so that we can improve our capital markets. Okay? So, kulelat pa rin tayo. Isa pa rin tayo sa pinakakulelat in terms of capital market development index dito sa Asia. And ang pinaka-mature as na nakakuha ng 4 is Japan. So, dito pa lang, no, sa funding at scale, in terms of funding, ibig sabihin, like I said on our introductory lecture, there is a minimum percent of our population who are engaged in the stocks market. And that's why we really have to encourage each other to help our economy boom and develop. We need to do our thing na hindi lang ilagay ang pera natin sa savings. We have to make our money productive. And the only way we can help our economy grow is to also invest. We need to see the importance of investment in our economic development as a whole. Ano, nakakalungkot. We are this statistics right here is a 2018 statistics. Okay, I'm not sure. I think it's a 2018-2019 statistics. And we still have a lot of work to do for our capital market. So as long as there is minimal funding, there is minimal investment opportunities, there is less pricing efficiency, we cannot move forward in our capital markets. Okay? So here is just some of the few top 30 stocks in the Philippines right now. In fact, they are included in our PSE index, meaning sila yung ating pinaka-primary barometer of movement in terms of pricing and market capitalization dito sa Pilipinas. So I'm sure you are seeing a lot of familiar logos right here, especially Ayala, San Miguel, Robinson, Metro Pacific, ito yung mga tollways natin, and Lex, Esitex. Ayan. We have Universal, Rubina, BPI, Jollibee. I'm sure you can name a few of this na masasabi niyong familiar kayo. Okay. So these are the top 30 stocks. Hindi lang stocks, they also issue bonds. Ayan. The reason kung bakit sila nasa top tier is because they are, number one, they are the mostly actively traded stocks, and they are the highest in terms of value. In terms of market capitalization, sila talaga ang market movers. That's why kapag nag-move ang JG Summits, nag-move ang SM Prime, nag-move ang San Miguel Corporation, our stock index also move immensely. Okay? Now we move on to our capital market regulators. Okay, unahin na natin yung pinaka-importante, which is the SEC. So lahat ng mga publicly listed companies na nakita nyo dito, they all undergo the scrutiny of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Okay? Also, there is a significant role being played by the BSP because of the depository institutions. We know that the Bangko Sentral supervises our financial institutions, banks, quasi-banks, and of course, insurance commissions, because our insurance companies also engage in investments. Kumbaga, there is a connection among these three. That's why They are the primary capital market regulators in the Philippines. Okay. If you would want to read further of the mandate or the regulations of the SEC, you can simply go to their website. Sige, pakita ko lang. Ayan. So right now, we are here sa website ng SEC. You can see here, capital market institutions. These are the registered capital market institutions. We have 244, meaning these are registered, these are legit. If you're going to purchase securities in the future, you would want to look at this list first. No, you have to make sure hindi scam ang pinapasok ninyo kasi the only way to differentiate a scam and a legit investment is you have to first see if they are registered in the SEC. So, ayan, ano, like for example, Bank of the Philippine Islands. So, it's a government securities eligible dealer. Nakasulat naman dito, no? And you can look at their information and see the legitimacy of their company. We have BDO Unibank, BPI Capital, BPI Investment, BPI Securities, so China Bank, they are all here. So do not buy securities at illegitimate brokerage houses, investment banks. Please, 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 as graduates of financial management course, kailangan kayo yung hindi posibleng ma-scam in the future, okay? And also, in their website, makikita nyo, no, yung mga nire-require nilang mga forms and financial statements right here, which you can also locate dun sa annual reports ng mga listed companies that I think yung mga previous students ko have already experienced doing it, ano? Yung nakita nyo na yung mga annual reports ng mga firms. So, yan, makikita nyo dito yung mga pinapatupad na batas ng SEC, online services nila, forms and fees. So, everything is already showed in their website. So, if you have time, you may, if you're interested na magtayo ng corporation in the future, whether it be publicly listed or private company, lahat yan nag-undergo sa Securities and Exchange Commission. That is for the government to ensure na lahat ng mga businesses na tinatayo dito sa Pilipinas, especially if it's a large corporation na, since it's a private and public firms, they make sure that they are transparent, they comply to the government regulation, and they are make sure lahat tayo is pantay-pantay ang mga sinusunod na mga requirements, whether you are a big corporation or a small corporation, you undergo the same procedure. Ayan. So, going back to our slides, ano. So, i-browse ko lang ng bahagyang-bahagya para lang may idea tayo ano bang trabaho ng SEC, no? Una-una, they supervise all corporations, whether it be partnership or association, merong franchise, permit issued by the government. So, they are the ones who are in charge of the supervision. They also formulate policies and recommendations that, in terms of securities market, and they are the ones who advise the Congress, the Senate, in terms of legislation to make sure that our securities market is adapting to changes, especially right now, no? Lalo na nung nag-pandemic, kung napapansin nyo, anong pinagkaiba ng DTI sa SEC? DTI is more on the SMCs, while the SEC is for huge corporations, small and private and public corporations. And then we have approve, reject, suspend, or revoke or require amendments to registration statements, regulate, investigate, or supervise the activities of persons to ensure compliance, supervise, monitor, suspend, or take over the activities of exchanges, clearing agencies and other SROs. So ito na yung even our stock exchange is supervised and monitored by the SEC and other clearing agencies as well. Impose sanctions uh, for the violation of laws and rules. Prepare, approve, amend, or repeal rules and regulations. Ano ba ba? Enlist the aid and support and or deputize any and all enforcement agencies of the government, whether it be civil or military, as well as any private institution, corporation, firm, etc., etc. So issue cease and desist orders to prevent fraud or injury to the investing public. That's why kapag meron tayong news, especially if it's a huge scam, it's always the SEC who mediates and educate the media when it comes to this cease and desist order. So it's really the job of SEC. Ano ba? Punish for contempt of the commission, both direct and indirect, in accordance with the pertinent provisions of and penalties prescribed by the rules of court. Okay. Compel the officers of any registered corporations or association to call meetings of stakeholders or members thereof under its supervision. Issue subpoena, suspend, or revoke after proper notice and hearing the franchise or certificate of registration of corporations, partnership, or associations. And I think this is the last one. No? Exercise such as other powers as may be provided by law, as well as those which may be implied form or which are necessary or incidental to the carrying out of the express powers granted the commission to achieve the objectives and purpose of these laws. Okay, so ilan lang to sa powers and functions ng SEC, but might as well know all of these kahit general knowledge lang, because the moment probably you would be encountering this any kind of fraud in public and private corporations, pwede kayong mag-base ng knowledge na when it comes to this matters. Okay, so it's under the Securities Regulation Code Presidential Decree number 902A. So under Section 5 of the Securities Regulation Code, Republic Act 8799. And baka lumabas pa yan sa civil service exam. So might as well, have a public knowledge about it. Okay? And we go to the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Like I said, I highlighted here is yung financial supervision because in the capital market participants, napaka-importante ng mga depository institutions natin that they are highly reliable. They are very highly dependable. Kumbaga sila talaga ang partners ng capital market. So it's the role of the Bangko Sentral to supervise our financial institutions. Okay? And also, Philippine Insurance Commission, let me just read this quickly. No? The Insurance Commission is a government agency under the Department of Finance. Okay? So the Department of Finance is an agency which directly reports to the Office of the President. Okay, so the Commission supervises and regulates the operations of life and non-life companies, mutual benefits, associations, and trusts for charitable uses. It issues licenses to insurance agents, general agents, resident agents, underwriters, brokers, adjusters, and actuaries. So before you engage with any kind of brokers, make sure that your brokers are licensed under the Insurance Commission, because you would want to know yung legitimacy ng broker. So, kailangan siya rin ay may lisensya under the Philippine Insurance Commission. Or if you have plans of being a stockbroker or an insurance agent in the future, you would be undergoing the same scrutiny of the SEC, but this time under Insurance Commission. And the Insurance Commission also has the authority to suspend or revoke these licenses. Again, the reason kung bakit I included Insurance Commission in this regulators because most of our insurance companies also invest in our capital market. That's why you have to make sure kung yung financial institutions are regulated by the BSP, you would want to make sure that the insurance companies are also insured or are also mandated by the Insurance Commission. Okay, I think this is one of the last few parts of our lecture, no? Yung functions and significance. So what will happen if we don't have a capital market existing in our economy? Okay? So the economic significance of the capital market is number one, aside from, it's a multiplier of funding or capital formation, it allows the proper and effective allocation of capital. Ibig sabihin, where the funds are needed, dun talaga siya mapupunta. Of course, allocation of risk. If you are an investor, you would want to leverage your risk. Hindi naman puro ka lang dun sa safe investment. You would also want a uh, medium scale investment, or you would like a high risk investment. And so it only happens in the capital market. Kasi ang mga low risk investments such as investment provided by banks, yun yung mga low return din naman. So if you would want a higher allocation of risk, you go for capital market securities. Proper channelization of funds or savings, like I said, dun sa definition natin ng capital market, without the capital market, you cannot make investments. It's only savings. Okay? So, hindi siya matatransform into investment, and it's gonna remain as a savings lang. So, we need the capital market to do that work for us. Facilitates in policy making. So in the case of the regulators, no, to enhance our capital market activities, kailangan magkaroon ng policy making. So without the capital market, our legislators cannot do this facilitation. Boost foreign capital. I think this one, with what's happening in the Philippines right now, we need more FDIs, foreign direct investments. We need more people investing in the Philippines. Pero ang issue dito kasi, sometimes there is too much control. There's too much control that is happening in a local firm. So meron kasi tayong mga restrictions with what happened to ABS-CBN, with what happened to Rappler. Ang issue dito is yung too much foreign control and ownership. But of course, what we want is more foreign institution trusting our capital market. So, syempre, like I said kanina, the more the merrier. If mas active ang ating capital market, mas magbo-boom ang ating economic development. Promotes industrial growth. Again, this is another debate. When we say industrial growth kasi, with the likes of South Korea, with the likes of Japan, European countries, the US, they are highly industrialized country. And with the highly industrial country, they create more jobs, they create more profits. And so, with industrial growth, dito kasi sa Pilipinas, we are considered as a consuming country. Tayo yung bumibili kasi tayo yung gumagawa at nagmamanufacture. Kung mapapansin nyo sa Korea, they make their own cell phones, they make their own vehicles, they make their own electronics, such as the LG and Samsung, no? Tayo lang yung tayo yung nagko-consume. So, when we have more industrial growth, we create more economic profits for the country. So, it's the capital market which answers to that question kung paano ba magkakaroon ng development ang bansa. We need industrial growth for us to have really economic growth. With our current political setting right now, kaya ang pinupush talaga ng gobyerno is mag-build ng infrastructures is because you cannot encourage foreign investments without this infrastructure. So I think yun ang goal ng current administration ngayon is to push for more infrastructures to encourage more foreign investors in the Philippines. And then easy liquidity. When you say easy liquidity, you can easily convert your money back into cash, and there is a steady flow of cash in the market. So without all of these things, napakabagal ng development sa isang bansa. Kung titingnan nyo sa mga baryo na lang, Madalas, alam nyo, dito sa city, Tarlac City, if you're going to walk along Eftanyedo Street, you can count so many banks na pwede nyong madaanan. So, sa mga baryo, sa mga maliliit na towns natin sa Tarlac, you could only count the number of banks that you can see sa buong town. So, meaning, the presence of financial institutions in a certain place also signifies the level of development that can happen in a place. So, kapag kakokonti yung mga financial institutions na present, no, ibig sabihin mabagal din yung development sa isang lugar. Same with the capital market. If our capital market is not fully recognizable sa buong bansa, no, the economic development is also very slow. So if there is minimal financial literacy in the country, there is also minimum financial not only financial, no, economic development in the country. That's why it's a challenge for us in the future to educate the future generation of Filipinos, not only future, even the current generation of Filipinos to engage in the capital market. So, there is aside from economic development, there is a joke na sabi, stock markets have predicted 10 out of the last 3 recessions. Now, there is this Great Depression, there is the 2008 financial crisis, and then now that we have the pandemic. Ang sabi dito sa joke, stock markets have predicted 10 out of 3. Ganun karami, 10. Pero 3 pa lang yung recessions. It only goes to show that the stock market really portrays the health of the economy. So, ganun ka-importante yung ating capital markets. When the capital market is sick, the economy is sick as well. Okay. Alam nyo, with the pandemic going on, as you can see, and I know you know someone na OFW na umuwi dito sa Pilipinas kasi wala nang work abroad. And so, when the capital market is sick again, you know that the economy is sick kasi wala nang walang funding, hindi tuloy-tuloy yung financing sa mga companies. So, when these firms are down, the capital market is down, the stock market is down, and so unemployment rate goes up. And so, sabi dito, in the US, mas mataas pa yung unemployment rate ngayon as compared to the Great Depression. So, just imagine that. It rose to 32.1%. So, ganun din dito sa Pilipinas, the unemployment rate has significantly risen during the pandemic. And it's still ongoing up until now, ano? And it's the role of the government to lessen this unemployment rate by creating new jobs. Kahit mga small businesses lang, they have to create funding para makapagsimula ulit tong mga nawalan ng trabaho. Okay? So, what I'm just trying to say here is there is a significant domino effect. Okay? Even in the treasury yield, it has been the lowest itong pandemic na ito. As of March 9, 2020, it recorded a 0.499% in terms of the treasury yield. Alam nyo, to make this short kasi pag sinabi nating treasury kasi it's the safest form of investment. So kapag ka napakababa ng treasury yield, it's gonna affect so many interest rate computations. Okay? Pag-uusapan natin yan dun sa risk and return lecture natin para mas ma-appreciate nyo yung interest rates. Okay. Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina, no? Ang Pilipinas ang pinaka naging apektado when the pandemic happened because we are not that much, hindi tayo ganun ka-established, hindi ganun katatag yung pundasyon natin. Unlike kung titignan niyo yung Shenzhen and saka Shanghai, yes, these are Chinese stock index. Least, hindi ganun, although they were affected, no, less than, minus 10% yung kanilang from the usual stock market index percentage. But the Philippines is on the top na talagang biggest loser in terms of our equity. Talagang bagsak. Walang gustong mag-trade, walang gustong mag-invest. Nag-pull out ng investments during the pandemic because of so much uncertainties. So, ganyan talaga pag hindi ganun ka-stable siguro yung gobyerno natin. Apektado talaga pati yung ating capital market. Okay, next. This one, I just wanna show this to you guys. Grabe. We lost. This is a negative 7.3% GDP. Hindi man siya growth. So, there is a significant loss sa ating GDP because of the lack of investment, lack of remittances, lack of productivity in terms of our existing businesses, no? Negative 7.3% loss on our GDP. So in 2021, meron namang forecast na 6.5% na increase. So hopefully by 2021, sabi nila we can fully recover, pero for some countries 2020 they're saying 2022 pa makaka-recover ang Pilipinas. But for some country, they're saying 2021 pa lang makaka-recover na sila. So sana nga, pagdasal natin na itong pandemic, now that the vaccines are already here, mapabilis at makontrol na natin finally yung virus na ito so that we can go back to our normal. No, we cannot go back to the normal kasi we have a new normal pala, no? Yes, so let's see what's going to happen in the next coming months of the year. Okay, so here is a last slide for the economic significance. Basahin ko lang kasi this is really nice, ano? The share price falls reflect not market adjustment but an awareness of disruption of supply chains. A disruption to the free movement of people and goods, and a shock to aggregate demand as consumers and business cut back on consumption and investment. So that's what's happening right now. The price changes in our stock market does not just simply means there is a market adjustment in the prices of the shares. It means, it's a domino effect in the supply chains, movement of people and goods, which happened during the pandemic. So nakita natin na ang stock market pala ay hindi lang for prices of the companies, of the firms, or values of the firm. There is an overall movement of everything. From the supply chain, disruption of free movement of people and goods, the demand as consumers and business cut back on consumption and investment. Because if you are a business owner, hindi mo kayang mag-risk right now because everything is very unstable. And so, when businesses are very lenient or kumbaga they're very hesitant on shelling off their resources, betting off, sumusugal sila. So, magkakaroon ng cut-off ng trabaho. Since merong cut-off ng trabaho, hindi masyadong makakabili, walang masyadong pambili ang tao. At kapag walang bumibili, magkakaroon ng price change sa supply. Ibig sabihin, maraming supply pero walang willing bumili, tataas ang prices. Pero with what's happening again in the Philippines, meron pa tayong issue sa ASF. No, meron tayong kakulangan ng supply sa baboy. Hindi makapag-transport because of the pandemic. Everything has been really, really significantly affected each other's supply chain. So, napakahirap. We are really undergoing a recession right now, whether we like it or not. We admit it or not. But really, there has been a recession going on since the pandemic. So, ganun ka-importante yung role na ginagampanan ng stock market. That's why every day binabantayan talaga yung movement ng stock market. So, what are the economic effects of the capital market? So, ang effect niya really is the wealth effect of the people. So, if there is enough surplus being injected in the capital market, meaning there is a multiplier effect. Okay? Effect on pensions. If our capital market is stable, yung pensions ng ating mga magulang, yung pensions natin, like for example, ako, I've already started dropping my savings on SSS, GSIS, what else? I have an insurance, life insurance, I have a VUL. So, these pensions kasi they work na pinupul yung pera ng tao and then ini-invest din sa capital market. So, when the capital market is healthy, the pension is most likely to also have a greater value in the future. Kaya nga ngayon, pinupush ng SSS na magkaroon ng price hike is because currently, the capital market is down. To cover that losses, kailangan ng additional premiums from the members or else, in the next coming years, baka hindi magampanan ng SSS or GSIS yung kanyang obligation na magbigay ng, ng pension sa kanyang members. Okay, consumer and investor confidence. I think I've mentioned this a while ago that when the consumers do not have enough money to spend, the investors do not have confidence to invest in the market, it's gonna have a domino effect. So that's why when there is consumer investor confidence, the stock market health is very good as well. And then number 4, the investment environment. Okay? So when there is stability in the investment environment or in the investment investment environment in the capital market, you know that the economy is doing well. And the last is the bond market. Ang pinag-uusapan naman natin dito are interest rates. When the economy is doing well, we have stable interest rates. The worst thing that can happen in the bond market is the sliding or dropping of interest rates. So kapag isa kang bond investor and you know that unstable yung interest rates, the value of your investment will go down. Kasi pagka nagpapautang ka, gusto mo mas mataas na interest rates. Ayaw mo na ang mababang interest. Okay? Mas mapag-aaralan pa natin yung interest rates sa mga susunod na chapters natin. But definitely, pag sa bond market, we don't want falling interest rates. There is a significant impact on your bond investment when interest rates are fluctuating. And I think this is gonna be the last slide. So if there is advantage, there are also problems in terms of too much capitalism. Okay, there could be economic instability, monopoly of power. We know that. Okay, short-termism because you only look at what is profitable now. Bahala na bukas kung maging devastating man yan. Wala akong pakialam basta as long as my goal right now is to earn profit. And of course, ito yung pinaka issue natin ngayon, environmental cost, ano? Now that we are really experiencing the effects of climate change. Immobilities. The opposite of mobility is immobilities. So if there is a positive effect of mobility, when we say immobilities, hindi ka makagalaw, hindi ka makamove. And there are certain parts of the community that is being affected with this because of too much capitalism. So let's say for example, yung mga napag-iiwanan na communities natin na hindi maka-catch up, hindi maka-keep up. Like for example, nung tinransform yung New Clark City, no? Walang nagawa yung ating mga katutubong Aitas na nakatira doon sa may Kapas at sila ay na-relocate. And because of that, no, wala silang magawa because capitalism is so powerful for a small community like them, although sila yung mas may karapatan talaga doon. So these are cultural problems, racial, ba tawag dito? Is it meron bang discrimination? So hindi, meron talagang maapektuhan because of too much capitalism. And monopsony and inequality. So ito inequality in terms of income distribution. So anyway, you can learn so much of this pa kasi ito usually sa economics talaga pinag-uusapan. So if there is a problem, there is also an advantage we have, which we have been discussing since kanina. I think na-mention ko na to one way or another. But I think for me, when you say capitalism, ito talaga yung has led to growth in living standards. For some, but not all, kasi meron ngang inequality. But definitely, it has led to the growth in living standards for some, especially yung mga nasa top tier ng society, sila talaga nag-i-enjoy sa perks ng capitalism. So, my question for you guys as an output for this chapter is I would like you to discuss these questions among your groups. So you're going to upload a video recording of yourselves answering these two questions. How has capitalism and the presence of capital markets affected the economic progress and development in the Philippines? So you have to cite examples. Probably you can assign each of these examples to your group mates and then you have to discuss it. And the second question is, on the contrary, what negative implications have you observed? And then you also cite examples as well. I want you to answer this because there is always a positive and negative impact of something, especially if it's unregulated, especially if it's over abused. So I would want to see how observant are you at this point in your life that you are in your early 20s, you are about to enter the real corporate world in the next coming years. So, mas okay na naman na alam natin that you guys are self-aware and you have to be responsible financial management graduates in the future. Okay, so siyempre kung merong positive, meron ding negative. So, that's the end of our first part or the first chapter of our syllabus. It's an overview of how the capital market works. Why is it so important? How does it affect the economy? How are we faring in the Philippines? No, nakita nyo naman yung ating progress as of the moment. So I hope you've learned something from our lecture on the first part of our syllabus. And I hope to share more with you guys in the next coming lecture. So thank you for finishing this video. And I'll see you on the next. Or should I say, you will be hearing from me more on the next topic. So thank you so much. And please do comply with our requirements. Huwag po tayong mag-cram, avoid cramming. So, do it kung hanggat kayang simulan ngayon na. Thank you guys!